Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I am going to be talking about why your husband wants you to take charge in bed, what this looks like, and how this is really a common thing among men that women don't really know about as much as they should. Before we get to that, please do subscribe. The most recent subscriber episode was how you could also have sex when you're not feeling close, and that used to be a thing, and it was useful when it was a thing, mostly, and made people feel closer, just like many other activities that you do even when you're not feeling close, and then you feel closer after them. So please do subscribe for that. And the upcoming one is, yes, you should interact with a soft penis. So, we really run the gamut there. Okay, so moving on, the most common fantasy that men really have that they share about their marriages, the young guys is different, have like a threesome fantasy or something, but that's even more kinky. The most real life kind of exciting couple fantasy that men have usually is that the woman takes charge, which is pretty simple and common, but it isn't really something that happens when women have kind of no idea about sex, and neither do guys. And this situation I've discussed repeatedly in podcasts like Your Partner Has No Idea What They Really Like, etc. People vastly overestimate their partner's experience and knowledge base about sex, and especially women tend to overestimate what men know about sex. And men do know about some more ideas, but that doesn't mean that they've done them or that they have any sort of real expertise in them. So this is how you get to situations where people have been married 20 years and the wife has never initiated sex. She thinks she's initiated sex, but she's not really initiated sex, because initiating sex isn't, saying maybe we could go upstairs later. That's not initiating sex. It kind of is, but if anything, it's a real casual, lowball version of that. And what a guy wants is for the woman to grab him and to touch him and to start kissing him and to take off her clothes, take off his clothes, say, get into bed, do this, do that. And women often find this idea pretty repugnant because of lack of confidence, primarily. So they don't really know what they're doing, and then they think that they would look stupid, or they would be acting like a porn star when they're not one. And it isn't really that. You tell them what to do all the rest of the damn time, So it's not shouldn't be super far outside your comfort zone. The other problem is that the women have the idea that the man is supposed to be that person, even if he's that person that initiates most of the time. Everybody wants to feel pursued, so he would want to feel pursued sometimes, at least. And another reason that men want this is because, a lot of men have this workhorse mentality where they're just the provider and they pay the bills, and especially if they're the primary or the sole breadwinner, they feel that is kind of why you got them. And no matter how much you're attracted to them, it's kind of like they can't believe it unless they see you pursue them sexually. Similar to how no matter how much your husband, does bring home the paycheck and take care of the bills and take care of the house and do whatever, you are not going to believe he loves you unless he does romantic gestures. Right? So he could say that he loves you, and that's represented by the fact that he is faithful and committed to, the family and to you. But if he doesn't specifically say things like, you look beautiful, I love you, you are wonderful, and he doesn't do romantic gestures, and he doesn't look at you with love, and he doesn't do whatever your equivalent is, then you're really not going to believe that he's that into you. You're going to think that he just basically wanted a mother of his kids and somebody who does his laundry, or whatever your grievances are that make you feel like a workhorse. So the way to make your spouse not feel like a workhorse, or like you just want them for practical things, is to make them have this magical land where things happen that they always wanted to happen. And for men, It's romance. And I have a podcast coming up called Wait, How Do You Expect to Get Laid If You're Not Loving? And I talk about this a lot, that men have to be more romantic, more empathic, more communicative, more complimentary, less difficult, etc. But women have to understand that for men, the big one is being pursued sexually. So, I mean, if your husband has ever said that he wants you to take charge in the bedroom, or like he wishes you would pursue him, or he wants you to initiate or whatever, I mean, there's levels of this. I mean, you could be somebody who doesn't really even initiate kisses or hugs, and then it would be good to start there and to come over and cuddle and to come over and give a kiss or to initiate a makeout session. If it feels incredibly awkward, and based on how you were raised about sex and whether you were raised in a super sex negative household and religion or whatever, then it may feel like literally something you could never do to say, like, I want to fuck you. Like, that would seem insane. But okay, so fine. So to some people, that seems like a bridge too far. But to other people, they're like, that's it? That's all I have to do to make my husband happy? Cool. Like, I'll text him right now. So great. So yes, like that's good. You should definitely do that if you want to. But if it's a bridge too far, even just coming over and kissing him or saying, you look cute today, or grabbing his ass or touching his chest or touching his back, anything that you can do is better than doing nothing. If you really do a self-inventory right now and you're like, wow, I really do nothing. I really never go over, or the only times when I do, I make it very kind of like childlike, really. Like, like I'll like pat him on the shoulder or something, like if he seems sad, or some women, and this is like unintentional, and it's derived from a real discomfort around adult romantic intimacy, they'll kind of infantilize the husband whenever he has a need, So they'll be like, oh, does somebody need to cuddle? Or something like in kind of a patronizing way if the guy comes over to touch. Or like, is somebody having a bad day? And I'm not saying like cute little baby talk, like if that's how you talk to each other, but there's some women that kind of uniformly always infantilize the man when he wants any sort of physical comfort. And that's done because the woman herself is so uncomfortable with like the adult intimate relationship. That's like so difficult for her and so aversive, because of often, a profound discomfort with sex, with men, with relationships. This is kind of like relates to the podcast that I have on when women are scared or disgusted by male desire. And that's a frequent consequence of an abuse history or a very, very negative view on sex espoused at home or on men. All right, so sometimes women do that. So if you recognize yourself in that, like you could stop doing that right now. Like that's nasty to do. You don't mean it to be nasty. You mean it to be able to give the comfort without kind of just totally, cringing and curling up in a ball. But if you are like kind of disgusted or really, really made awkward and uncomfortable by your husband needing physical affection, then that would be something to pursue in therapy, because that sort of reaction, whether it's fear, disgust, aversion, and you'll know if this is also something that just dropped off right after the honeymoon phase, right after that drunk new love thing. Maybe you could do it in the beginning, but then it immediately stopped. It stopped before your whole history of empathic ruptures, and honestly, it doesn't matter whether he's being good or bad or whatever. It's really just something gross and weird to you. Then that's something to explore in individual therapy, right? Because that's not healthy, and your kids are watching you kind of distance yourself from from their father in this kind of patronizing way. That is mean. It's no less mean than when women are like, all right, let's go upstairs and do it. Seems like you need to, have your, session of release. So let's go have sex, fine. Like that's nasty, obviously, too. And some women don't even realize that's nasty because they've been raised to think that men are just these kind of like machines that need to ejaculate every so often. And it's just like another kind of chore to do. And so they are being willing, and that's, good. And the guy should appreciate that. But it's not like that. Like, that's only how people who are really, really messed up around sex think, is that a man is just an ejaculation machine that needs to do that every so often. So I've, talked about that super much, about how sex is about closeness, play, connection, exploration, not just about the ejaculation, which your husband, I don't know how stupid he is, but he is not too stupid to know how to jerk off. So, I mean, he's already got that base covered. Anyway, what I was trying to say is there are many ways to initiate sex and to take charge. So let's say you're not big on talking. You could do something like, pushing him a little bit, like back onto the bed, people like that. You could go on top of him when you never go on top of him. You could initiate the position change. Just as much as women don't like the porn montage sex, men do like it. So if you want to do something nice, then do the couple of different positions. As long as it ends up in you enjoying yourself and having any of the sex that you want at some point in the interaction, then why not? Do a few new positions. Fine, he likes that. Wearing lingerie, another silent way to take charge in the bedroom if you need a silent one because it's too uncomfortable to speak. If you are more exploratory and you are really, quite honestly, just a woman with a higher sex drive and more open-minded, you can use a blindfold on him. You could tie him up with scarves. Or on that ridiculous podcast with those Christian women, the Bare Marriage, they said that it is the patriarchy to use your silk scarf. So he should go to the dollar store and get his own fabric to tie himself up with or whatever. I mean, that was nutso. But yes, you can use anybody's clothing of any sort. He will not complain if it's his ties or whatever you use. But yeah, I mean, you could do things like that. You can also look up, if you're really into it, you could look up BDSM stuff, and what it is to be a dominatrix and what kind of clothes you would wear for that. You don't have to do it all the time. Doing this once ever would be nice, for a man that has never, ever experienced anything like that. And you got to understand that statistically, your husband is somebody who has never, ever experienced most things. There are a million things to do in the bedroom. And I know your husband may have had some one-night stands when he was a frat boy, but I'll tell you what they weren't. Very exciting, because that's not what sex really is in your 20s, besides if you're in a multiple stage encounter. So again, and I really want to hammer home this point because a lot of people, this is new info for them. A lot of people are like, yeah, my husband, he slept with 20 women. All right, but unless he slept with 20 women for a year each and they all had a lot of experience before him, he still hasn't done even 10% of what there is to do in the gamut of sex, because he had a bunch of different women do probably the same thing that he was supposed to initiate. So it's a logic question here. How could he have done anything different if most women expect the man to initiate? So basically, whatever he learns to do with one, he tries to do with the next one because he doesn't want to not please her. So if it's very superstitious pigeon. If a pigeon turns in a circle before pecking a lever in a lab experiment, they'll always think they have to turn in a circle before pecking the lever. They never understand it's just pecking the lever. So if your husband's first girlfriend in high school liked him to, touch her breast a certain way, he's going to try that move with every woman for the rest of his life. And it's not your fault you don't like it, but you got to train him something else, But a lot of women misunderstand, and when the guy comes in with any sort of routine or agenda, which is easily perceptible, men who are listening, it's obvious when you have a thing that you do. And then they assume, okay, I guess this is what he likes. That's not what he likes. He doesn't fucking know what he likes. How does he know what he likes? Has he slept with every woman in the world? No. So part of being in a romantic relationship, a sexual relationship, is introducing each other to new things. So it is extremely likely that if your husband is asking you to take charge in bed, he has never really been with any woman who has, or maybe one woman did it once, but he still doesn't understand, or maybe one woman did it a lot, but he could still learn so much more about himself and his sexual responses. And if you do something that is new to a man, they're gonna love you forever. It's like That imprinting, like if a duckling is just born, it sees a mother duck walking, then it's going to follow the mother duck, right? If it sees a robot walking, it's going to follow the robot, or like any other animal. There's like cute videos of this because that's their imprinting stage. They are made to imprint after their mother, so that's their critical window of development where they follow what they see. Well, if you introduce your husband to some new shit that he really likes in bed, he will be like that duckling and he will love you forever. And of course, this is also, much more important in the dating phase because that is a real easy way to get a man to really want to stay with you. And it's not shallow. It's just like shows that you're a certain kind of person too. If you give a man like a wonderful sexual experience, or a woman for that matter, quite honestly, especially a younger woman, if you give them a wonderful sexual experience, they are going to be a lot more committed to you, at least committed to seeing you more. And that's what I talk about in my podcast. Like, of course, men call. Like, this idea that men don't call after sex is crazy. They don't call if they don't like the sex. If they do like the sex, you can't shake them. They call all the time. So, what you want to do is try to do something with a full heart that your husband likes. And usually it's this. And especially if you've not done this. Now, if your husband's one of these weird people, and I do hear of them sometimes, that when the woman initiates sex, they don't like it. Well, then your husband has his own weird, fucked up problems around sex. It's not your fault. And probably he's very difficult and rigid in other ways also. And probably he has very negative associations with sex. So, or there's more going on. Like you have an extremely unhappy marriage, or he's not attracted. So, or he's just like super, super conventional and rigid in his mind that the male always must initiate. But I see this like almost never, and usually with very low sex drive men who are very, conflicted about sex. Generally, it is good advice to try to initiate in a more take charge dominant way, and the guy will really like it because it is so outside the norm, shows that you really love him and that you really care, that you're open-minded and willing to try new things, and that you're trying to give him a wonderful experience in addition to just being very sexually exciting and very similar to fantasies that he has, because men know that they don't know everything in bed. So the fantasy, and why men like this whole MILF fantasy when they're young, is that a woman will teach them something. So, because they don't know everything. They don't want to have to know everything. It's very stressful to be a man that doesn't have a lot of experience and then hook up with women who are looking to you to have experience. You don't have the experience, but you got to act like you do. So if you're in a position where you don't have to take charge, where you're the more submissive partner, then that whole thing goes away. You don't have to be moving the encounter forward. You don't have to be thinking about when I'm supposed to start this or this. And you have this wonderful bonus of knowing what the woman likes. So if you do take charge, why don't you take charge and do something that you really like or that you would want him to do for you? If you feel like it would sound cool to have a blindfold on, then show him what you like by putting a blindfold on him. Then say, next time we could do that for me, or whatever. And again, for some people, this is not a first baby step. The first baby step would be coming up and kissing, coming up and hugging, coming up and grabbing them anywhere. I have the podcast coming out. Yes, you should interact with a soft penis. Some women think the man would be embarrassed if when they touch the penis, it isn't hard. He doesn't go around with a hard on all day. I mean, he's not an animal, like he's not like a 14-year-old taking steroids or something, Well, actually, steroids would be not the opposite problem. Taking Viagra, he's not going to have a hard on all day. So if you've never touched a soft penis, then you haven't touched the penis enough, right? So anyway, this is an aside that you could listen to in its own podcast. And I hope you got something out of this and that it was a light bulb moment for at least one person. And if you're a man listening to this, then you want to bring it up, you could say to your wife, I would like you to take charge more. That would be so hot. You're so hot. And I would just have this fantasy of you just taking charge in the bedroom and like doing new things or, whatever. So try, try to say that. Don't give her my podcast on this one unless she's already said she's like a big fan of me. No woman needs to have somebody chiding them from their perspective and get defensive about somebody saying something they should do in bed with their husband. It seems a little too personal and a little too attacking for some people. So in that case, your wife's not one of those people that wants a podcast. So you bring it up like a big boy yourself. You say, I want you to take charge in bed, and then use some of what you learned today from me to give examples. So that's how you can use this most productively in your relationship. Those are operating instructions. All right, I'll talk to you all soon. Please do subscribe so you don't miss anything, and see you next time.